This is BBC News. I'm Anita McVeigh. The headlines at 2. Thousands of people are marching through London to demand a vote on the final deal on the UK's departure from the EU. Senior cabinet ministers stress the UK is still prepared to walk away from Brexit talks without a deal.
The Prime Minister has always said that nothing is agreed until everything's agreed, and that no deal would be better than a bad deal. And I think it's essential, as we enter the next phase of the negotiations, that the European Union understands that.
President Erdogan of Turkey makes a final appeal for votes ahead of tomorrow's elections, in which he's facing a strong challenge. Also coming up, tackling the devastating impact of plastic pollution. So David Attenborough launches a new campaign and says he's been astonished by the response to the Blue Planet series. And on Talking Books in half an hour, Norwegian journalist and author Asni Skirstad speaks to Gavin Esler at the Hay Festival. Hello, a very good afternoon to you and welcome to BBC News. 2 years after the Brexit referendum, thousands of people are protesting in central London to demand what they call a people's vote on the outcome of the negotiations with the EU. Now we'll be going live to central London in a moment. In fact, here we are live with these helicopter pictures right now, but a number of thousand people demonstrating against the main rally in support of a no-deal Brexit in what they're calling the UK Unity and Freedom March. Those are the pictures you're looking at the moment. And it all comes as the German engineering firm Siemens, which employs 15,000 people in the UK, called on the government to remain closely aligned with the single market. Meanwhile, senior cabinet ministers have again said the UK is prepared to walk away from the negotiations rather than accept a bad deal. Our political correspondent Nick Eardley reports.
2 years to the day since the Brexit vote, visions of the future are still very different. Campaigners in central London today calling for a vote on any final deal the government reaches with Brussels.
There's been 2 years since the referendum. The government's no clearer about what it wants. It's internally divided, let alone in argument with the European Union. The country is very likely to end up in a bad place. We've got to stop the mess, and the best way of doing it is that when we know what the outcome is, that the public have the final say.
Businesses are expressing views too. Yesterday, Airbus said it will reconsider its future in the UK if there's no deal. BMW called for more clarity. And today there was this reaction to Boris Johnson's call for a full British Brexit.
It's time to get away from slogans, full British Brexit, going into combat with Europe. It's all incredibly unhelpful, and what we need to do now is to get closer with our European partners and work out what a realistic, pragmatic Brexit is.
The Foreign Secretary says the government needs to get on with it and avoid a deal that's soft, yielding and infinitely long. Others say to get that, the PM must be prepared to walk away if she doesn't get the right deal.
The Prime Minister has always said that nothing is agreed until everything's agreed, and that no deal would be better than a bad deal. And I think it's essential, as we enter the next phase of the negotiations, that the European Union understands that and believes it.
Labour says no deal would be catastrophic. And as campaigners say the electorate should make the final decision, a reminder, if ever one was needed, that different people see Brexit very differently. Nick Eardley, BBC News.
And we can talk now to our news correspondent John Donnison, who's with the People's March in central London. John, any idea on official figures for the number of people attending that yet?
We haven't got any official figures at the moment. What the organisers are saying is tens of thousands of people, and certainly as they were gathering earlier a little up the road, it did look in those kind of numbers. We're not talking hundreds of thousands, I don't think. Parliament Square behind me is filling up now. There's going to be a rally here in a couple of hours' time. I've got a couple of guests with me now here, Chessie and Sarah. I'll start with you, Sarah. What do you want out of this march? What are you asking for?
basically, it's just bizarre that the decisions are being made that are going to affect us for generations to come, and we're not having any say in those decisions. So,
well, you did have some say. Did you vote in the last referendum?
Yeah, of course. But since then, it's become clear that it's been absolute chaos. The people, like members of the House of Parliament, have no idea what's going on. There's possibility of there being like no deal and us still going ahead. It's absurd that we don't get kind of a say in those decisions.
And Jessie, I think from the other side, they would say it's a case of sort of sore losers.
Well, they'd be wrong on that front. If the government recognises that basic democracy requires the people to have a vote in principle as to what leaving the EU would look like, then it naturally follows that the government must recognise that basic democracy also requires us having a vote on what it will look like in effect.
So another referendum.
Exactly.
Again, people would say, well, there was a referendum, people voted, it was close, 48 to 51, but the 48 lost.
That was a vote in principle as to leaving. It wasn't a vote into what actually leaving would look like. No one had a clue. The media was hugely misrepresentative.
It was based on lies, and it's since become clear in a couple of years that, like, it's just become clear what lies they were, and, like, yeah.
Did you feel back in 2016 that you didn't know really what you were voting for?
No, I felt worried that the media was portraying certain aspects of the media were just portraying it as total lies, like with the NHS bus with the 30 million a week. Like, it was clearly lies and clearly absurd, and it was kind of worrying how many people were kind of falling for that and voted based on lies.
But how do you see that this is going to actually happen, another referendum, when you have the two main political parties, Labour and the Conservatives? Neither of them are saying they want another referendum. So how would it happen? Jessie?
This is why the people are out for it. It's the only way we have. We can march with our feet and we can protest for it and demand.
Exactly. We're not even optimistic that it will happen, but it's more just about like having your voice heard and being seen to take a stand against something that's going to affect us, our lives.
And what alternative reality will we let the government sign our lives away without taking to the streets for it?
Jessie, Sarah, thank you very much indeed. I'll let you get back to the rally. The Parliament Square filling up behind me, and as I say, those speeches due to start in an hour or so's time.
John, thank you very much. John Donison there in central London. A quick look now at the countermarch. This is the countermarch to the People's Vote March. This has been called the UK Unity and Freedom March. Also in central London, a couple of thousand people attending that march. So we're going to, of course, bring you more updates on what's happening there in terms of those marches throughout the afternoon. And remember, you can keep up to date with every twist and turn of the Brexit negotiations and the political ramifications by going to bbc.co.uk/politics.